So that was a real help. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have found time to put that up.
Yeah, that'd be good. That dude Jibbo's got a lot of good shit to say.
Yeah, the interview itself was interesting. I think because we focused a little bit in on him. So
you could say I like the cut of his Jibbo.
Brilliant. It's brilliant.
I'll go die in a fire now. Sorry. Sorry, stream. Alright, I have my notes up of things we can talk about.
Yeah, I know you sent me something. I haven't even had a chance to look at it. That's probably in this. Those are the notes, right?
Yep.
Okay, let me see if I can find that.
I'll just put it in the Discord.
Oh, you want to put it in the Discord? Oh, ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, they posted my little video with Sarko where he talks about how he makes Sarko combos. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just sorry, I had to retweet that real quick. You said you put it in the Discord. Oh, I can't look at it in the Discord because I need your full thing, your full face. Okay. So I'm gonna look at it in Twitter.
Yeah. It should be the last thing, or one of the last things I should say.
Joe Munday.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just reading. Oh, okay.
Is that how you read all the tweets?
Sometimes I put on stupid voices.
In your own head.
Okay.
I do that too.
Okay. A lot of this stuff I haven't even watched yet, but we can talk about it.
No, that's okay. If something comes up that you haven't watched, then we don't have to talk about it.
No, I mean,
I do want to talk about that Capcom Connect though.
I didn't watch that.
That's okay.
I didn't watch it. I heard about it, and I heard there are various segments and things, and people tweeted me stuff, but I don't know a huge amount about it, to be honest.
Nah, that's fine. We'll talk about it though. I'll fill you in. I'll give you the deets.
All right, that sounds good. This is your show, so you can talk as much as you like, and I can listen and tell you, like, yeah, that sounds good. I can just nod and go, yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds good.
Oh, do you have to do an intro?
Yeah, we're gonna start recording in. Gonna give you the countdown in 5, 4, 3. Actually, do you want to do the intro to this one?
No, I
you want to hit that?
You do the intro. It's your fucking podcast.
Just say welcome to RSF Radio.
You want me to say that?
Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to RSF Radio.
All right, folks. Very special edition of RSF Radio.
Featuring very special guest, Joe Munday. I am now the new host.
You've commandeered this podcast, and I have to jump ship.
Yeah.
But no. Anyway, folks, welcome to RSF Radio. I'm your host, Joe Munday, and I have a very special guest, Born Free, on the show. You know him. You know what he does.
Well, I got sponsored by all of you guys once, so...
Yeah, that did happen.
That did happen.
But also, I should say, a little background information for people who are just listening to this show, that we are live on Born Free's Twitch.
Yeah, and I'll probably upload this as well.
Yes, so that's all well and good. So we're going to talk about stuff that's been coming up in FGC news and just the subreddit in general. But before I do that, I spent some time in London, by the way.
When?
Like all of last week.
Really?
I did all of last week in London, and then I had a day or so of Amsterdam.
Oh, wow.
Which was great. By the way, London's real cool. That's a cool city.
It is actually a very cool city. My cat has woken up.
I spent a lot of time like in the Soho region, which was like, from what I'm told, pretty uppity. But
yeah, Soho is. I mean, basically. Sorry, my cat he wants attention right now, so he's
cat attack.
He's here. Goki the cat. Yeah. Soho. I mean, I went to University College London, and that's the closest university to Soho. So it's pretty much I don't know. Most colleges are party. Oh my god. Most colleges are party colleges, and University College London is definitely one of those because it's right there.
That makes sense.
Soho's a cool place. I just, I got sick of all that when I was, like, when you're 18 and you're trying to get into clubs and they got somebody at the door who fucking picks you. It's the most.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that, and that's kind of. I'm not cool with that.
That's not. It's the most degrading fucking bullshit. It's like I've got some wank. Am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Oh yeah, it's fucking swear all you like.
All right, yeah. So like when you go,
it's a podcast for kids.
When you go to these clubs, you got some asshole who often has like an actual. I don't know what they have. They're like a fucking magic wand or something, which they use for pointing, like a pointer. And they're like, you can come in, you. And it's just like, fuck off. Like, once you get past that, like when you're like 18, you're like, oh, I really want to just get in, because, I don't know, I guess you sort of, you want to be part of that crowd or whatever. And then there's a certain point where you just go, this is bullshit. I don't need, like, to go through this fucking, garbage where somebody is deciding whether I should or should not be in this club.
And also, you want to typically hear the person who you're trying to like talk to. That's more my thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a definite thing as you get older. As you get older, that's 100% like, I can't do this. Like when they have the Twitch parties after the FGC events, a lot of
can't fucking do it.
The Smasher ones, the ones which are like mainly Smash, it's like fucking glow sticks, right? And like it's just glow sticks and fucking super fucking loud. I walk in, and I'm like, nah, and I just walk straight out.
Yeah, not my scene. Can't do it.
Yeah.
It's just too aggressive, the audio. And also, there's another part about that. I used to DJ in a former life.
Me too.
If a DJ isn't actually working, you know how you can tell when a DJ is actually working pretty hard and when he's just phoning it in? I'm like insufferable in bars where I'm like, oh no, this is. Hey, by the way, everyone who's around me, I have to let you all be aware that this guy fucking sucks.
Yeah, I mean,
tell you exactly
to be
why.
honest, like I used to DJ a lot of house music, and I did it with records, right?
Yeah.
And so you could see what was going on. You could see when I was mixing. You could see when I had the headphones on and all that shit. But now, honestly, I've lost touch with that, because like I left all that shit behind in the UK, and I lost time. I didn't have time for it when I had like a full-time career, and nowadays I have no idea if they're doing any work or not. Like they just got a fucking laptop and then occasionally pretend to press buttons. And there's actually people who are like the DJ's mate who go up and pretend to press buttons. That shit blows my mind. I'm just like, whatever. I mean, if it gets you laid, great, well done. If going up,
you can touch this VDJ. It's not plugged in. I promise you.
If you go up and press buttons and pretending to do something gets you laid, then that's great. But I don't know what's going on, to be honest.
It's a good tactic for that.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, so what else did you go to the London Dungeon?
No, what is that?
You didn't go to the London Dungeon? That's always the thing, like, because I can't keep up with. I've been here for 12 years, so it's hard for me to keep up with like the scene in Soho. So like I always say, like, go do some touristy shit, right? Because that stuff never goes away. And the London Dungeons are good because you get, well, depends what you're into, but like if you go down to the London Dungeons, you can see some pretty horrible shit. Like how
you guys are into some horrible shit.
Well, when people used to get tortured and shit, it's horrific.
Oh dang.
Oh, it's horrific.
No, I didn't. You're talking about an actual dungeon. I thought maybe you were referring to like a.
I'm talking about a torture. I'm talking about a torture chamber. Yeah, the London.
Okay. Actual torture chambers.
If you got actual torture chamber, this is probably before America was even discovered, right? So you go down into these fucking dungeons, and in these dungeons, right, they've got like stuff which they used to torture people with. But probably one of the worst. I don't know that it's one of the worst, but it's one that plays on my mind all the time. There's one where they've cut like a little cube into a concrete wall, right? And the cube is big enough to throw a human being in, scrunched up, right, with their knees up on their face, right? So they're just like, scrunched up into a ball, and then they just fucking close the gated door on you, and then just leave you there for like years, and occasionally feed you and stuff, but you can't move. How
that's no good. That's no good at all.
That's fucked up, right? That's some seriously fucked up shit.
Claustrophobia is not good. Specifically, the kind that prevents movement. Ugh, no, thank you. No, thank you, sir.
Not being able to freely move, and like there's nothing you can do. Like there's no, you're not the Incredible Hulk. You're not going to break out of that wall. It's just not happening.
Speaking of not being able to move, the tubes sometimes were a bit much for me. I like my space.
Yeah, it can get
2 stories underground, and it's very hot, and I was wearing a jacket that day. It's just.
It's true. They don't have AC.
No,
but
not at all.
But that's because traditionally it's never really been that hot in the UK. The summers have been getting hotter and hotter, probably global warming or whatever. I don't know. But as far as like the tube goes, I think, you know, compared to where I live, which is New York, I think it's a better experience. Because the New York one is super dirty, but it's also really expensive compared to New York. New York is like you can pay $2 and you can go anywhere, whereas in the UK it's like zones. But it's like it's very well organized because there's usually someone around that you can speak to.
I had the opposite issue actually. Anytime I talked to or asked anyone for information, they were just like, yeah, you could take platform 4, and they did this like hand wavy thing, and I guess they just expected me to walk away, and I did because I'm very socially awkward, and it was just like, well, I hope I'm on the right train. I hope I know where I'm going.
I mean,
it happened to me like 4 times where someone was just like, you could take this to Oxford Circus, and then you take the Victoria Line south, and you'll be all right.
I mean, that's a good accent.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that blows me away. So when I compare it to New York, the problem I have in New York is there's no one. Like, there's literally nobody that you can ask of anything, unless
That's accurate.
You can go to. There's usually one person in the, I don't know, on the kiosk like paying area, and that person acts like they aren't. Like, most of the time they act like, why are you asking me a question? I don't get it.
I don't want to be bothered.
Yeah, which blows my mind. They're just like, what do you want? Whereas in the UK, they usually have somebody on each of the platforms. I like the London Underground. I think it's pretty cool. I think it makes sense.
That is true.
But
There's at least one person per platform.
There's one person per platform.
Like, no, you want to go on this other train. You are headed the wrong direction.
It's also pretty clean, and they've got, they're quite up to date.
It's very clean
with the advertising and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it can get super packed. But that's just kind of the way it is. And if you're there in the summer, yeah, it can get hot too. So. Ooh. But
we're in this like transition time where it's like kind of cold at night over there, and so you want to wear a jacket out, but then you're in the tubes, and it doesn't change temperature down there. It's still very, very hot.
Yeah, it is what it is. But you enjoyed the rest of your trip, did you?
Yeah. Speaking of dungeons, by the way,
thanks to the host Slainman.
I ended up. Hey, Slainman. It's good. Speaking of geefs, he's one of the better geefs out there.
Well, there you go.
But dungeons. So I ended up in a bar in Amsterdam at around, like, we showed up after 1 a.m. Specifically because when you ask people around Amsterdam, hey, like, is there anything open? Because most places shut down early, and they're like, yeah, they shut down because of the fighting. And I didn't inquire as to what that meant. So we were just shoved off. They're like, well, if you go down the street, there's one bar that's open. I think it's like in an alleyway. You have to walk down a street and then an alley. So I was like, already, we're not in the red light district, by the way. So it's nothing too seedy. So I thought. But we walk down this alley. Nothing is lit. Everything's lights are off except for this one place. There's one light on the street. And I'm not certain that it wasn't a From Dusk Till Dawn situation. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Where they enter the bar and they're like, and it has been a certain movie up to that point where they enter that bar and then there's a switch and it turns into a vampire killing the movie in this wacko bar. It's filled with psychos, right?
Yeah.
And I'll make a concession here and have the image of the picture that I took walking down to the bathroom of this bar where they had like dolls strung up and a scythe on the wall to go to where you go pee. And that was only one of very many spooky things that they had up on the walls. And there was at least 3 people in all leather outfits.
Oh, okay. What time is this?
But it wasn't like late? A BDSM bar. It
wasn't.
It was a spooky bar.
A spooky bar. Okay.
So when you think about like some spooky shit on the walls, like creepy pictures where you're like looking at the boy's eyes, and the boy's eyes are like, they're not going to follow you, but you're going to look over every once in a while and be like, that's definitely a ghost now. This is spooked. This bar has been ghosted.
Wait,
for real.
Hold up. What were you smoking?
No, I actually can't because I get drug tested like all the time. So
okay.
not for me.
All right.
Not for me. Don't get me wrong. Also, kids who are watching, because this is a PG-13 podcast / stream, don't fucking do drugs, kids. It's bad. It's for sinners, and you'll go to jail definitely, and get pregnant at the same time.
Unless you live in California. I just got back from California.
No, how was that?
It was interesting.
Good time in Cali.
It was interesting seeing people like. I actually went on this little journey into the mountains, and you could smell weed. Like, and it
no
was
shit.
Yeah, and it was people cultivating right there, the weed farms. They were cultivating and just throwing it into the back of fucking vans. And initially, I was like, because it was nighttime, and the person I was with was like, "Oh, they're just harvesting the weed," and I was like, "What am I? Some fucking?" Because I forgot that it was legal, right? So I was just like, "What the fuck? Is this like? Am I in the center of like some drug? Is this where all the gangs are and shit?" And then I realized that it's legal, and it's just kind of a weird, because you grow up your whole life. So when you smell that smell, you're like, associate, I guess, if you smell it in the street or you smell it like wherever, you associate it with, okay, this some sort of illegal something is happening, right?
Yeah, whenever you smell it, you kind of give a side eye to anyone who you're with, and you're like, yeah, you smell that, right?
Yeah, and
someone's doing a weed around here.
Someone's doing a weed, and then this was fresh weed being harvested and being thrown into the back of vans. It just so happened that they were doing it at night, which made it feel really dodgy. But it was an interesting experience to see, to smell weed pretty much most of the places I went at some point.
That's pretty rad. And also, technically speaking, and I learned this on the trip, technically speaking, like, drugs are still illegal in Amsterdam. They just kind of like allow you to do them.
You can do them in bars, right?
You can not all bars.
But I thought
you have to like do it in the coffee shops that you get.
Sorry,
the stuff from.
Sorry, that's what I meant. The coffee shops. So you got very specific coffee shops you go to. You can buy right there, and you can smoke right there.
Yeah, but like, it's not run by it's not a legal business. It's just one that's like they made a concession of, well, if you do it like inside, it's totally legal, but as soon as you step out that door, it is like it's a no-go. You can't be doing drugs in front of a police officer out there. They're not gonna like throw your ass in jail. They'll just be like, hey, you punk, like, I'm taking this and gonna throw it away because you're being an idiot. But it's like it's not as legal as people think it
I went there a long time ago with a group of friends.
Beautiful city, by the way. Like, the drugs is the least cool part of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Like, real talk. That city is fucking rad.
No, it is. It's very beautiful.
So many cyclists. It's beautiful.
There's a lot of beautiful cities in Europe. I was talking to somebody about Barcelona the other day. That's another one. And Italy is just like food, good-looking people, amazing fashion, amazing architecture, amazing fucking countryside. Italy is like dope as fuck.
And also, by the way, fashion in London was kind of... Some of y'all are fit. I think that's the right term to use. And some of you are not so much. Some buck wild fashion out there.
Fashion is a weird thing because, like, when I was in Europe, when I lived in England and grew up in England, I was like, okay, well, this is the fashion, right? It's the best. This is the best. And then I came to America, and I was like, this is terrible. Like what people are wearing, particularly blokes. I was like, what the guys are wearing is fucking awful. And it was kind of funny because like if you like the way back, I mean I came 12 years ago, but like when I was wearing like my English style, which now is more prevalent, to be honest,
it is
in New York or in America. Like at that time, people were like, you're either English or you're gay or both. Because it was, you know, like most of the dudes were wearing baggy, you know, big old baggy pants, as it were.
Yeah, you wait, what year was this? We talking like Jenko jeans year? Or are we talking?
Oh, dude, this was back
not that too far.
It was like 10 years ago.
So that's not that far. That's not. But yeah, it was not as tight a fit as you might have otherwise. By the way, folks, welcome to the podcast where we talk about our Street Fighter stuff and what's been going on in the world in fighting games, and not, you know, being travelers of the world for the last however long. 20 minutes. That's a 18-minute intro. That's not that bad.
Well, I mean,
that's fine.
I'm glad you had that trip to Europe. That's awesome.
No, it was really cool. Had a really good time. It was mostly out there because my wife was doing work, and it's basically a free trip for me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Flew up to Reykjavik first, and then got a flight down towards London, which, by the way, also travel tip. If you fly into Reykjavik, fly in at night so you can see the Northern Lights. You want to see that. It was so cool, dude.
Yeah, I bet it was. I'm glad you said. I'm glad you said Northern Lights. I was trying to say Aurora Borealis or whatever, and the stream was blowing me up because they were just like, "You're not saying it right." And then eventually someone was like, "Northern Lights," and I was like, "Fuck! I could have been saying Northern Lights all this
out the whole time.
Could have been saying Northern Lights all this time." I was talking about Cammy's stage because it has the Northern Lights in that stage.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a cool stage.
That's nice that you saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was cool seeing it from a plane. Weird. It moves weird in a way that I wouldn't expect it to. So, by the way, folks, fly at night, fly in the side of the plane that the lights are going to be on. They'll be towards the north because that's where the lights are. All right, podcast, Street Fighter, there's the Northern Light stage. Cammy is a thing. She wears kind of a cat suit most of the time. And speaking of cat suits, Felicia is a new costume that Manat is going to have. That is a transition, folks. That's how we do it in the biz. And that's why they pay me the big bucks. Bet your ass.
I like the Morrigan costume because it's just basically Morrigan. Yeah, I mean, it's not like...
I actually don't like this.
I mean, I don't love it, but it's just basically Morrigan. You know, like there's no like, oh, it's Chun-Li in a costume.
There's just no like, nuance there. It's just Morrigan.
It's just Morrigan. All right, cool.
They could have also, like, I know they didn't change the face model, but they could have just been like, we had the model in this other game, so like, it's, guess what? It's just Morrigan now. The Jerry one, that is the fucking, why am I, Lilith, is that one still looks Jerry?
Yeah, because it's a combination. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but the Chun-Li one is definitely just.
I mean, to be honest, I don't really care that much. I mean, like if they're gonna go down the road of what similar to what modders do, which is just like give you an experience. You know, here's my favorite character, but what the hell? They're gonna be Mega Man today. Like, I don't care. It's good. It's all good. So.
I think all the costumes. I keep doing it. Keep making costumes. These ones look pretty good, I think.
It's interesting. It is interesting, though, because I feel like they've made that leap towards, like, oh, we can just do anything. Whereas before they were, I think a lot of the time they would try to retain, like, the things that made that character. I might be wrong, but, you know.
You might be right. I think there's some credence there, because there was a slow drip of costumes. They didn't really come out with the kind of grip that they're coming out now.
Yeah, it's pretty wild now. I wonder how much... I'd love to know how much money they make out of costumes.
I mean, right now, we've got Mecha Zangief, Classic Vega, Dimitri Ed, Felicia, and Kaibit Minot. She's got 2 goddamn costumes.
Yeah.
Chun-Li's Morrigan, Jerry's Lilith, Urian's Donovan, Guile Zombie, Abigail Cyclops, Falk Shinigami, and a Colin who's a witch. That is 12 costumes.
That's wild.
That I have just named.
That is wild. I honestly can't keep up with them. And I don't think I've seen it, like, for me personally, I've not found one for Akuma that I've been interested in. The only one that I like is the color swapping that was done for the Rage Takedo costume. But but only Takedo has it.
Yeah, he's the only one who can.
I need Takedo's login details, you know? so one, I can rank him down to fucking silver, and then
have to do like a social engineering experiment to get his login details.
I mean, like, if you're gonna hack anything, like it's fucking out.
Why not Takedo CFN?
Yeah. But I think it would be pretty obvious the minute you do, because you'd just be like playing ranked and you'd be getting destroyed by the other grandmasters. Unless, of course,
because you're only among
unless it was Daigo hacking him, then he might. But then it would be Guile, so it still wouldn't work.
And you'd want to choose that Akuma for the costume anyway, so why even bother? Why bother?
There's no one in the world who can do what Takedo does with Akuma, that's for sure.
No. Kind of speaking of which, I should say, there was that transition from Takedo losing to Chakotay and then bodying Fudo at TGS.
Yeah. Oh, did somebody make a video?
I don't think anyone made that video, but I like that story, right? Where Tay wrecks him.
Yeah.
Just a very solid trouncing. At least the second match is up on YouTube. No one recorded the first. I don't know if it's posted. It's handycam stuff, right? It's shaky cam. But, like, Tay beats him hardcore. Takedo drowns in pools, and he says, "Never again."
Wait, what?
And then...
No way, he didn't say that. Shut up.
He said, "Never again."
To who? He said it to Tay?
After the match.
He said never again?
Never again. And then...
Fucking Takedo.
Embarrasses Fudo.
I mean, dude.
Embarrasses the man.
What was going on there? Because that is ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen, and maybe there's people in the chat who have seen something like that before, but I've never seen anything like that before. Because Fudo, I mean, in my Sarko interview today, and in my, hey, guys in the chat, I did an Oil King interview. Not many people know that, but it's going to come out soon. In my Oil King interview, both of them said the player that they are scared of the most, who gives them the most problems, is Fudo. And I think a lot of people would say that because Fudo is usually top 3, right?
He's so consistently solid.
And he's been playing forever.
The most solid.
He's been playing forever, right?
Right.
He's super experienced. Like, when Takedo did something similar to Punk, right? You could understand, like, the difference in experience, right? And being on that stage for the first time. I think it was Punk's first Evo, to be honest. And Takedo had that losers run. But for Fudo, I would have thought there would have been a way of Fudo to slow that train down,
Right. Like,
he
would adapt.
Wait. We got someone in the chat saying it was actually Fudo who said never again after the TGS finals. So,
do I have it backwards?
INV SMP5.
Or are they asking the question? Because I'm pretty sure that at SCR...
Oh, the question? Okay, so
yeah, I think there's a question.
Oh, okay. So apparently INV SMP5, apparently Takedo said it after losing in pools against Tay, or El Chakatoy? Is that how you pronounce it?
If you just want to call him Tay, that's the easiest, safest way to do it, and you won't catch flack for it.
Yeah, but anyway, point is, the story is Takedo loses in pools to a Mika, apparently turns around in legendary status and says never again, and then goes on a loser's rampaging run and then beats Fudo resets the bracket and beats him 8 games straight. Is that right? Is it 8 games straight?
At TGS. So he had like a week. Was it a fucking week between TGS and SCR? Or was it 2 weeks? That was like 2 weeks, right?
No, it was 1
I've
week.
lost track of all time.
No. What SCR and TGS is 1 week. Wow, I'm getting super confused about this conversation right now.
That's the timeline.
No, I'm getting confused about this conversation because who put him in losers at TGS?
I don't know. That
okay, so he had a week to practice against Mika, basically.
Yeah, he lost, said never again, had a week to practice, and embarrassed Fudo.
Okay, that makes sense. That story makes total sense. That's exactly the taquitos that I know. That's exactly
the taquito way.
That's the taquito way. That's how you operate, right? You lose, and you're just like, all right, I need to work on this right away. And a lot of the top players are like that, you know? They're already, immediately after the match, they're thinking about, they're visualizing how they can change things. And that was, I mean, I've never seen anything like that. I thought Fudo, being the experienced player that he is, would find a way of stopping that train. There's something
just changing up his pace at some point, or just like not allowing Tokido to get like speedrun world record time of grand finals.
That was the other thing, right? There was quite a large break, because for a second they thought there was going to be an announcement, right? But they didn't do an announcement. Right. So there was quite a large break between Taquito's losers final and the grand finals, right? So I thought, oh, that's going to throw his momentum off a little bit. But there's something to be said for those losers runs, right? And the thing that has to be said about it is that you are getting warmed up on stage, right? And you build momentum. So we've seen Taquito do this before, where you're on stage, you're in the environment you need to be in to you know, for every single match, and you're just playing, and you're getting more and more warmed up, and you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Meanwhile, the guy who's in grand finals is just fucking sitting there, right? Down there, you know, maybe he's warming up in a
could be a little cooled off,
different setup,
the grand finals,
different environment. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, to me, it's kind of a little bit fascinating, that idea that being in grand finals on winner's side should be advantageous. But I don't know, when you've seen someone like Taquito go through, I don't know how many matches it is in top 8 to go through losers finals and just win one after the other after the other after the other, and is up there and fucking owning that stage.
Right.
That's I don't know. I think there's something to be said for that momentum when you're up there.
I think that's true. He rolled in like a steamroller. There was no chance. If you watch the tapes, it's brutal. And to that point, I also kind of want to bring up, we're talking about Chakotay, who like is in all fairness, our StreetFighter sponsored him to Evo. He's one of, if not the best Mika in the US. I'd say him and Mojo would be a very close 1-2 for me. I feel like on a good day, it could be one or the other. They're both very strong players. Right. But to then go and play Fudo, who is just known for being so consistent, known for being able to adapt, could not adapt. It was just...
I just don't understand. Honestly, like, as a professional player, I know how strong Taquito is, and I'm a Taquito fanboy, right? But I just don't understand how someone like Fudo, because I have so much respect for Fudo and how amazing he is and how much he adapts and all that sort of stuff.
My wife's favorite player.
It's
my wife's favorite player.
He's a lot of people's favorite player, Fudo, and I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Like, I just don't get it.
How could this be? How could this have happened?
It just doesn't.
How could you do this to my good boy?
I mean,
Fudo?
like it wasn't. Like, I'm actually genuinely worried about him for the future. You know, what the hell does that do to somebody's confidence?
Nah,
like, it's one thing to take a loss, but that was ridiculous. And I don't even know if Fudo's much of a. I don't even know if he labs that much. I asked him stuff in the past. Like, I've interviewed him. And I've asked him, I've said, like, I've asked him about training and stuff. I've not really gotten very straight answers. I know he likes to drink. Apparently he plays better.
He labs at the bar.
Apparently he plays better when he drinks. So maybe there was no alcohol at TGS. I don't fucking know. But
couldn't get that man a drink.
Yeah, like get him to down a pint of fucking beer or whatever the hell it is he does. I mean, his profile pic is him falling off a fucking chair with a beer in his hand or something like that, right? He loves beer, he loves food, and to me,
that's why it's called Fudo.
Yeah, and a loss like that is pretty extreme. I mean, he's a very experienced player, I get it, and maybe it's happened to him before when he was younger, but I've certainly never seen anything like that between two Japanese fucking godlike players.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
The amount of how many? I mean, what is it? First to 3, so he won 12. Did he win
6 matches in a row?
But 12 straight rounds, right?
12 straight rounds.
12 rounds straight. I don't think he lost a round. Did he win? Did he lose a round? 12 straight rounds is ridiculous. So, I don't know.
Against a player like that, hot damn.
Yeah.
I love Fudo so much.
Yeah, I mean,
I do love him. One of my favorite things recently of Fudo is actually the Cygames Beast. If you go to their Twitter account, the banner on their Twitter account is their team. Which, by the way, they have so much fucking money. They shut down a whole goddamn bridge. They have shut down bridge fuck you money. I've never seen that much money. Well, I have seen that much money in my life, but that's a lot of money.
Mobile
shut down
games,
a whole
man.
goddamn bridge.
Mobile games. If you've got the right mobile games, you will make a ludicrous amount of money.
So they've shut down a bridge, and they've got their 5 players out there. They've got Gamer B. They've got Chris T.
Yeah.
They've got Daigo.
Yeah.
They've got PR Balrog. And then at the very end, and they're all like standing on a bridge, looking like I'm standing on a bridge.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, yeah.
I'm doing this is my bridge stance. This is my esports bridge stance.
Where is
and
this?
then there's
Where
just
was this
Fudo
bridge?
in fucking shorts, just standing there, arms at his side. I fucking love Fudo so goddamn much. That's his esports stance. Is just like, all right, hello, I am here. I am Fudo. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, he's funny as fuck. I mean, Fudo, I don't know. I wish I spoke Japanese because I think one of the things I would love to watch in Japanese is Fudo and Daigo when they're sitting on that couch fucking about, drinking beer, whatever the fuck they're doing. Because, you know, I've interviewed like Fudo and Daigo, right? And they'll do it, but they don't love it. Because it's not in their own language, and you know they don't need it. You know, they don't. There's players that will use it as an opportunity to communicate with the American and the European and the English-speaking world, and they will use it to, you know, improve their brand so you can get to know them. You know,
when it's useful to them, when it makes sense. But
it works for everyone, right? So, like, I get countless comments of, oh, you know, even on Takedo videos, which blows me away, but even on Takedo videos, I get comments of, oh, he always looks so, like, focused and mean. I didn't know he was like this. He's kind of cool. I like him. Now I'm going to be cheering for him, right? And so that's why one of my favorite comments in interviews is like, oh, I brought that player, I've connected that player with a new supporter or whatever, right? And
because you've revealed a part of their personality that otherwise they wouldn't get.
Right, but Daigo does, you know, he doesn't need to do it. He's got his own show. It gets translated. He doesn't have to do it. He did it. You know, we did it once, which was cool. And I think the thing he got most excited about was Game of Thrones, because that was because somebody told me you like Game of Thrones, so I was like, do you like Game of Thrones? And he went, oh, Game of Thrones, and then, I was like, oh yeah, he does. He obviously likes that. But everything else he's talked about a million times, and then talking about it in a different language is just, for him, I don't think is that much fun. And then Fudo, his answers were all very safe answers. I've been told that with those guys, the best thing you could possibly do is take them out and get them drunk. But you know,
you need to do like a bar interview.
Yeah, but
where you like play some, like part of it is like a little bit of drinking games.
Yeah, but the problem with it is that basically once you do that, I mean, now I'm going.
They've got handlers though.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit serious now.
Okay.
The problem with it is if you take advantage of somebody in that way, nobody else is going to want to do an interview with you. at
it's good.
at this stage of the FGC. You know, like you know, I'm not an investigative journalist, and I'm also not somebody who's trying to fuck somebody up. You know,
Right.
I'm just trying to introduce, just trying to see what that player's all about. You know, and try and get some honesty and truth from them about whatever the game, the FGC, whatever, and highlight their personality and show it off and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, of course, in the past I've thought about, wouldn't it be great to just go and get fucking hammered with this person and film it all, and then because of course they'd say all sorts of crazy shit, right? But that, you know, the next day they'd just be like, okay, great, I'm never doing an interview with you again, and neither is anybody else.
Right.
So
yeah, you'd ruin a little bit of your credibility and access to players in the future, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So I get that.
But yeah, I'm sure Fudo and Daigo are a lot of fun to get hammered with. It'd be great if you could speak Japanese as well.
It would be fun. The other tournament we should probably talk about, if not very briefly, would be EGX, which was like the time that I was in Amsterdam was when EGX was taking place. So I was like, I'm in London, but like far away from this because of how everything was scheduled. And I also didn't set the schedule. I talked about this earlier, but while I was out there for work, and then it's a whole thing. Regardless,
the other thing about it, right, is I think there's a conversation to be had somewhere about managing sort of our time, you know, as viewers, because it was it was really hard for me to stay up and watch, because I stayed up and I watched TGS, and then I was just like, I can't stay up and watch EGX, like it's just too much. Like I had to sleep basically, and by the time I woke up,
thought that thought almost every week of this, like it's every fucking week. There's so much Street Fighter.
There's a lot, and if it's not premieres, so that's an example of 2 premieres, right? So you want to be if you know
you want to watch the ranking events, like good luck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are
the fuck is your time?
I've said this before, but sometimes there are weekends where there are 4 tournaments, and it's happened a lot recently where there are 4 tournaments, and they'll just turn up on my timeline where people are just like holding a medal, and you know, whatever, it could be Chris T, who just won in Chile, like, hey, I just won in Chile, like that was going on while, you know, there were a couple of other like premieres, right? So that was 3 tournaments, and I don't know if that was a ranking event or a special event or whatever.
That was a ranking event.
But you've got a lot going on, and it's tough, particularly if you're a multi-game. Like if you like watching a lot of different stuff, God. It's tough. I mean, it's hard.
Your weekend's just packed of like, I had responsibilities. I did have to go to the bathroom this weekend, but there's a lot of fighting games going on. I can't even like take a piss without missing like Uniest or anything like that. It has gotten kind of buck wild. It was like this last year, but I feel like this year in particular, maybe it's just because we're like getting down to the end of the season where I don't know if you're feeling the fatigue. I got the fatigues.
I've definitely felt it in the past. This year, there's been points where I've just gone, you know what, I'm not watching anything. So, because I'm kind of all in or all out, you know. So I'm like, if I'm in, I'm like, shit, there's 3 tournaments, awesome. I'm gonna watch all these 3. It'll be amazing. And then I went through a phase of like, I'm not watching any of them. Like, I'm just not. And then Dragon Ball kind of dragged me back in a bit because the storyline was so strong. You know,
but then it got strung out. The storyline got pulled too thin.
It got messed with a bit, particularly when they went and did the 1st to 10 in Vegas.
Yes, which was the weekend where I was like, you guys.
Everybody made a comment. They were like, no, it's too soon. Like, no,
way too soon.
But the storyline on that one I was enjoying a lot, and Sonic, you know, won Evo, and to be honest, he was I did feel in the end that he was the strongest player.
Right.
But I didn't there was a part of me that didn't want him to win, not because of anything to do with him, but more because I wanted the storyline to continue. I really wanted, because I feel like now Sonic can go, all right, that's done. I conquered that. I conquered you. And now he can move on to Soul Calibur 6 and Smash Ultimate, right? Because he's got a storyline coming up with Smash Ultimate. Because every time you move into one of these communities,
right,
you also happen to gain 1 billion more subscribers or followers, right? He said it himself. He said he went from 60,000 to 70,000 in like a day or something after he basically had the, you know, with Zero, they had a back and forth about setting up a first to 10 or something like that when Smash Ultimate comes out. So
that adds to his circle of influence, where he can
of
leverage
course.
that against
every
kinds of sponsorship money. And
every game that he moves into, it's more followers, right? And more followers means more influence. More influence means more likely sponsors will be interested in you, right? So all of that makes sense. And that's why I'm a little sad that I feel like the Dragon Ball story is kind of done now. Like you just
feel like Goku won in the first fight and then walked away?
Well, I feel like the only other fight, right, is the Dragon Ball World Tour, right? And somebody else could win the Dragon Ball World Tour, and Sonic could say,
"Yeah,
I was practicing Smash." You know, like whereas if Sonic had lost Evo, I feel like there would be more of a personal desire to come back, and like I just fell in love with the storyline.
There's less hunger, obviously. The hunger is spread about multiple games. That just makes sense.
I just fell in love with that particular storyline, because what you had was Sonic Fox, who, you know, I think is a, you know, genius, right? But
extremely
played in
talented player.
But played in a lot of games that were US based, right? So then it was like Dragon Ball came along, and all of a sudden there was some serious Japanese players, right? So you got Goichi, who's undefeated in America. You got Sonic, who's Goichi, who's undefeated in Japan. You got Sonic, who's undefeated in America. It's like, oh my god, these players are gonna meet. Like, who's gonna win? And then like he lost, right? He lost to Goichi, and I remember thinking, holy shit, welcome to our world, you know, because think about Street Fighter, right? I was like, holy shit, welcome to our world. But I was convinced that Sonic could bring it back, right? Like I knew like he's not. This isn't Street Fighter 4. It's not this is Sonic Fox, and I think he can turn this around, and he did, and that's great. But I feel like the story is done now. That's what makes me sad, is because I was enjoying that storyline so much, and I feel like he won Evo. And now I think like whoever wins the, whatever the hell it is, what is it? It's not called Battle of the Stones. It's the
Battle of the Balls.
The Battle of the
Tanuki Balls.
The Dragon Ball World Tour, right? Whoever wins that.
Whoever wins the Tanuki Ball Cup.
I bet you it's Kazunoko, by the way. I bet you it's Kazunoko. But whoever wins that, I'm not sure that. I don't know. I just feel like the storyline is done. I feel like the storyline wouldn't have been done if Goichi had won at Evo, but he just wasn't strong enough. Regardless of that switch when he had the momentum, I still don't think he was strong enough. So
yeah, not at that point.
So that's
that Kaioken level 3, and it was lights out. But anyway, that's a Dragon Ball thing.
But that's what brought. I just wanted to say that's what brought me back to tournaments, was a storyline like that. I enjoyed the storyline, that storyline.
We've really lost interpersonal storylines in Street Fighter.
Well, that's what Tom Cannon talks about. Tom Cannon talks about that all the time. Recently did an interview with him where we looked back at footage from 1998, and I did an interview with him at Evo. And Tom Cannon's big thing is like that rivalry has gone. Particularly, I mean, he really enjoyed sort of the inter-regional rivalries, which were very strong in, back 20 years ago, I guess. NorCal, SoCal, East Coast, West Coast, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, a lot of that has kind of disappeared. And I was really enjoying the Dragon Ball one. I thought that one was very organic. It did become a little bit of America versus Japan, just naturally. It's, it's not always countries anymore. A lot of it is very individual based. It's kind of like it's like tennis or something. It's like, is it the country? Are we supporting a country here, or are we just supporting a person? Because a lot of the time I feel like I'm just supporting a person.
And honestly, now it makes sense to have it that way. It's one of those things where, and I was thinking about this the other day in the car, where I think at its core, fighting games are best pitched and promoted as if you're running a boxing match. Except that boxing match, like let's say the Floyd Mayweather fight, it happens like what if you had to fight every goddamn week? Who would give a fuck about that? Nobody. And that's kind of what we have. We have all of these big sluggers. We have Problem X winning Evo, and then a couple weeks later getting 7th at EGX, right? Like,
right, yeah.
He's best in the world.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
not that day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, man. It's pretty weird how there's so much going on. And
what if sponsors acted more like promoters? What if who was the Don King of the FGC? The FGC needs a good Don King.
You know who was the Don King of the FGC? That Empire Arcadia guy. What's his name?
Ooh,
the fuck chat. The chat can help me out here. What's his name? I've forgotten his name. The Nintendo guy. That was the fucking Don King of the FGC. It was back in the day. Triforce. Yeah, exactly.
Triforce. Yes.
Triforce was the original Don King of the FGC, I think.
Fucking Triforce.
Right?
Wasn't
he?
Was...
I think he was.
No, you're right.
He was a very visible manager or like organizer or whatever, right? He was visible. I'm not sure we have anybody like that. One of the things they were saying in the chat was that we don't have a heel, because everything comes back to wrestling in America, right?
Right.
So we don't have like a true heel anymore.
That's true.
I don't know if that's... I know when Punk was around, that was kind of interesting. Oh, sorry, Punk is still around, obviously. But when Punk first came on the scene, that was kind of interesting because that was very much his persona. I think it's changed.
He was talking a lot of shit.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit.
He just kind of disappeared.
Well, it's changed a little bit now. I mean, he's evolving, right? That's how I like to think.
I heard he was the best Zeku. That's just what I heard.
Yeah. But
maybe I spent too much time on Twitter.
I thought you were the best Zeku.
I read that in a fortune cookie, so who can trust that?
Okay.
Or maybe the fortune cookie itself was referring, like, the person who wrote it must have just been, fluent mind, just writing mind to paper. Oh, I'm the best Zeku, clearly.
Oh, someone in the chat says F-Champ was the best villain of Marvel, at least.
Yeah, that's true. I would even go back and say, like, Kane Blue River at some point was
yeah,
the heel.
kind of.
Kind of. He's not really, but kind of.
Because the thing is, when you talk to him, he's not as villainous as like.
No, he's an alright dude. He's totally fine. But a lot of the community was like, "Hey, fuck this guy."
Yeah.
It's like, well,
but is that what we need? Do we need a heel? I mean, like, or do we just need to slow down on the tournaments? Because I tell you what,
I think that might be it.
I just don't understand anymore which is a special tournament. Because everybody's winning something somewhere, right? And my timeline is full of people. And by the way, I respect all of them and think their achievements are incredible because I can't do what they do. But that is the thing. To continually give credence to these wins of these tournaments. Like, these aren't chumps showing up to these tournaments knocking players out. The competition is crazy strong. The competition is
crazy strong to be competitive right now.
But it's hard to understand. I think it's a little hard to understand, and I don't know why. But it's a little hard to understand what's important and what isn't. So, for instance, right, EGX is a premiere, and Evo is Evo. That's one. Evo is actually one step above a premiere, apparently, right? I mean, of course it is. Like, it's if you win Evo, that should
biggest fighting tournament in the world.
Should be the pinnacle, right? Capcom Cup's come along, so now we sort of have two world champions. We would often say, this is the world champion, and now here's another world champion, right? And like you say, like, the tournaments happened really quickly. So TGS is definitely seen by a lot of people as, oh my god, that's in Japan. People are gonna be, there are gonna be some killers who turn up to that, right? So, like, it's interesting watching, as you say, you saw Problem X win Evo, and you should be, at this point, still thinking about, I think you should probably still be thinking, wow, Problem X is like the world champion of Evo, world champion. He won Evo, that was amazing. But 2 weeks later, or whatever the fuck, TGS happens, Takedo does this amazing losers run and bodies Fudo, right? And all of a sudden that story is elevated, right? And then the other side of the world, you've got Angry Bird, right? Who's winning with Zeku. So it's like
at EGX winning with Zeku, making Capcom Cup.
It's a lot in a short period of time to take in, and in many ways, it sort of takes away from some of those victories. It takes away from Problem's victory a little bit,
Whereas like a couple of years ago, even like we should give props to Angry Bird also.
So we should give props to Angry Bird, definitely.
Hell yeah.
Like it's so funny because I interviewed Adele, right? At Evo last year. It was one of the first times I think that he'd gotten a visa and was able to come to America.
Big Bird, great dude. Incredibly good head on his shoulders.
Great head on his shoulders. Very active on Twitter. Hilarious. Will argue with everybody, as all those boys do. And Adele told me in the interview, he was like, he would talk about Big Bird, not Big Bird, Angry Bird. I'm getting them mixed up now. He would talk about
everyone does it. It's
fun.
Bird.
And he goes. I remember he said to me. Sorry, just anecdotally, he actually said to me, everyone calls him Angry Bird because his head is shaped like an angry bird. And I forgot about the game Angry Birds, right? So I was like, his head is shaped like an.
Just kind of look at him
like a bird.
Wait, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait a second. His head is shaped like a bird that's angry. I'm not sure I understand. And he was like, the game Angry Birds. Oh, right, okay. And then I saw footage of him recently, and I was like, I don't think he looks like an angry bird, like from the game Angry Bird. But whatever, that's totally anecdotal. But he would talk about Angry Bird as being like his training partner, somebody that they grew up together and trained together and all that sort of stuff. But it was always Big Bird, Big Bird, Big Bird, Big Bird, this, Big Bird, that, Adele, and how brilliant Adele was, because I think when he first shot to sort of FGC fame was when Cien went out there and he played.
I thought it was when he beat Infiltration. At game 18, or maybe it was game 5. The video of this is like fucking impossible to find, by the way.
Okay.
I had to talk to Hatson about it, because finding the video of him using Guy to beat Infiltration in grand finals of either game 18 or game 5, it's one of the two, which was a tournament in the UAE, and Big Bird wrecks him.
Yeah.
Well, and Infiltration does a lot of different character changes, and it's a very good grand finals. Highly recommend watching it.
Well, I haven't seen that one. I definitely saw the Cien one, and I think that was one. I think that was one that he brought up in the interview, and it was just after Cien had won Evo, and I don't remember exactly. He either took him to the brink or he either beat him, and it was
yes,
in, again it was I think it was in Dubai, somewhere like that. But yeah, he was young then. He was like super young. I don't know how young, but very, very young. And but then now he traveled to Evo, and I saw him last year, and we did the interview last year, and he would talk about this person, Angry Bird, and I guess it never occurred to me at the time how strong Angry Bird should blatantly be,
right?
Because it was all about Big Bird, so it was like I never thought, where the hell is this Angry Bird guy? But obviously he's been. I don't know what his story is, and I'd love to talk to him at some point. It seemed that he felt. I don't know exactly, but it seemed. I sort of heard rumblings that he felt like maybe he couldn't replicate his play in tournaments or something like that. But
yeah, his storyline, his personal story, he'd be a good interview. Wink, wink. He'll be at Capcom Cup. Wink, wink.
Okay. Well, Capcom Cup, I don't know. Capcom Cup is one of the hardest places to actually get two players. Like, so Capcom Cup is like
focus mode.
When I go to Capcom Cup, it's like, but they're also they're basically they are contractually I think they have to do interviews with Capcom. So that will happen first and foremost. So they'll do like 32 interviews or whatever. Then they have to film all their intro stuff because they treat it more like esports, right? Because they have the 32 players, and
that's right. Big chicken neck bones. I forgot about that.
They're training their asses off. So it's actually one of the. I don't really usually do interviews at Capcom Cup, even though like those players will be there. But if I mean, if there was one interview, maybe he's a possibility. I don't know. But it's certainly in the future it would be good to interview him for sure.
That'd be a good one to line up.
But he did extremely well to win EGX, and he just looked. I loved his reaction. You know?
Oh yeah.
Like, cause
that slow realization of, I fucking did it.
Yeah, just like
I fucking did it.
Nothing fake about it. Nothing. Just an outpouring. It must have been like brimming up underneath him, or he must have been keeping it down somewhere. And then when I don't know, like when you have an emotional moment, right, and you don't realize it's coming, it
just hits you.
It's just
like a ton of bricks, and it's like, whoa, I can't. Oh fuck, this means this in my life, and then like this. You could just see it wash over him, and just that slow realization of, oh, this means this changes everything right now.
Yeah.
So it's such a good moment.
Yeah, it was dope. It was dope, and sadly I haven't yet watched enough of his matches. I'd like to go back and see some of that stuff. I believe he plays Akuma as well, right?
Yes, that is true. He played some Akuma, and that kind of makes sense. I think if you play a character like Zeku or like Zangief, for example, or Ken even, I would say, it would be good to have characters that might have some holes in their game, to have a pocket character that just is generally solid against most of the cast. So that makes sense to me. But yeah, shout outs to Angry Bird for the big win at EGX. And back to kind of the storyline thing, it just reminds me of something that Luffy said this weekend of, he wins today, he can lose tomorrow. And that kind of just feels like how it's been for the last couple months or so. And
was that a dig at the game?
I don't know. It was a dig at his opponent. And like,
it was a dig at his opponent. Wait, he was
if
salty.
If you can win today, you can. No, because he was talking about his previous win like that day, and being like, "Well, I'll beat you tomorrow."
Okay.
Don't worry. But
maybe
like,
it's him just trying to pump himself up, and
yeah, and that's how it is, and that's how it rings. That was true for him in that moment. But to me, I thought about that. It was just like, well, that kind of does feel like how this season has been, which isn't to take anything away from these players. The competition is crazy hard. I've said this before. It's very hard to do consistently well in this game, and for players to do that is incredible. But like, where are the storylines? Even
it's moving too fast.
Years back.
It's moving too fast for storylines.
You think about years where like Cien won Evo in Street Fighter 4, and then a couple weeks later, Daigo's just like, "Hey, let's run a first to 10 and see how that goes." That's a storyline.
Yeah,
right?
actually, yeah. Any first to 10 with Infiltration as well. It was the same thing.
Yeah, fuck that guy. But like,
because
fucked him up
that
hard.
was one of
hell yeah.
I mean, when I look back at matches, I've been asking players this recently, but sadly, I haven't been getting wonderful answers. But one of the questions I've started to introduce is, there a classic match that everyone should go watch? And occasionally they'll come up with an answer. But there are a number of classic matches that stand out to me, stuff that I really enjoyed, particularly in Street Fighter 4. Things like the first time Punko beat Daigo with Seth, and he just downed the Red Bull, whatever it was, and crunched the can and threw it, and did all the showmanship and all that stuff, right? And just went wild on him, right? And then of course, when Infiltration beat Daigo, that came out of the blue for me because at the time, Infiltration was sort of one of those players who was around, but he wasn't winning, right? And actually, I don't remember that anybody was dominant with Akuma, right? Even Takedo was a great player, but he wasn't.
Right.
There was nobody like, and there were less. By the way, there were less. You know, you remember this time. There was way less tournaments, right? And so
definitely felt that way.
Yeah, and so then Infiltration one day, that particular day, the day that he won Evo, I remember Seth Killian saying on commentary, like, Infiltration says he's got this. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever. This is Daigo. What the fuck are you talking about? And then he just does the focus through Daigo's fireballs.
Yeah, just hits him with the perfect range.
I'd never seen anyone doing that, right? And I guess Daigo had never had anyone doing it to him before because he blew him up like 4 rounds straight. And that's one of the matches that and I think he demoned him at the end. I think he finished with a demon.
Yes, to win.
And that was one of the matches where I'm just like, even though it's extremely one-sided, it's like, go watch this because it's so dope. Like, if you understand the context of like where Infiltration was at the time in terms of his perceived ability and Daigo, and I think Laugh, by the way, had a huge what's the word, influence on Infiltration.
On that, yeah.
Like he was like, it was almost like Infiltration had this potential, but
because Laugh mained Ryu also,
right? But it was almost like Laugh filled in the final puzzle piece. You know, it was like, okay, this guy sort of has has the potential, but he's just missing this one piece. And I always felt like, to me, again, this is like talking about storylines, right? To me, I imagined in my head, oh, okay, I think Laugh made a big impression on Infiltration because that was around about the time they spent a lot of time together, trained together, and they won the Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I think that was roughly the similar sort of time.
The tag tournament.
Yeah, and then
and then that might have been the year after.
Might have been the year after, 2013, 2012, because 2012 was definitely Infiltration. But yeah, I just like those.
So those are good storylines, but also
it's hard to remember those matches now because they're happening so fast.
Right, and also kind of a. Not necessarily a segue. I don't want to talk about this too much because fuck this whole situation and like the legality of it is really fucking weird. But I have to point it out because it is the elephant in the room that we haven't brought up yet. Fuck Infiltration. Big thumbs up that guy's ass. Holy shit. And I can say that legally because at least one of the cases that was brought against him for being a wife beater was ruled against him. So legally, within court documents, this isn't defamation for me to say that he lost that case. But also, I can just say, by the way, fuck that guy. Fuck him.
See, I haven't kept up. Unfortunately, I haven't kept up with...
There are laws and rules in Korea that can prevent people from speaking out for cases that are currently open. I'm not gonna get into like the legality behind it because I am a dumb, and for me to try to speak intelligently on another foreign country's laws is gonna make me kind of look like a big dumb. But to briefly talk about it, like no one can talk about the currently open case because of what is the name of the word? It's called legal defamation. I'm already messing up the word. Where even if it's true, if it hasn't been proven in court, you can't talk about it. Otherwise, someone can sue you for defamation. Like it. Yeah, defamation by truth. That's it. Thank you, guest in the chat. Defamation by truth is that like turn of phrase where it's like you can't, even if true, even if this happened, even if you have proof that this happened, you can't talk about it. Otherwise, it's considered defamation. So we can't talk about the currently open case. We can talk about the case that was open and shut. I can't to speak about it because a lot of it is in Korean, and reading into it is difficult to remove one case from the other case. I don't necessarily know what falls in between one and the other or why it was split up in these two ways. I can't get into that. However, I can wholeheartedly say that that guy's name isn't going to come up on this show often anymore.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you,
without me bringing this up and just saying, by the way, he is in the news this week, but also fuck that guy.
See, I am unclear because I've seen. Okay, this is a really hard topic to talk on, right? Because look, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and by the way, I'm talking as someone who doesn't understand the Korean legal system, someone who doesn't speak Korean, and you know, I just don't think I'm ready to talk about it yet because I see social media.
That's fine.
I see social media move at such a fast pace, and I've had people message me and tell me completely the opposite of what's out there, right? So it's like, oh, the legal system works like this, right? So I read that and I go, okay, the legal system works like that. And then I have someone message me who lives in Korea or has lived in Korea in the past or knows people who lived in Korea, and they're like, no, that's not how it works at all. And I'm like, well, who the fuck do I believe? And that's where I'm at the moment, to be honest.
And to try to do any kind of reporting on that, as anyone who is an English speaker, it is the water gets deep real fast.
No one's done it, right? No one's done the reporting. I know people have tried. Like some
people are currently doing it,
right?
But so I'm specifically because it's really hard. It's actually really hard to get a hold of any of the legal information if you're not a Korean citizen. So there's an added layer to this that is a little extra murky. It's tough. So regardless, and I'm not trying to speak like I know everything that's going on, even though the civil case has been open and shut.
Yeah.
And we do know that. I don't know what was included in that case. I can say that for sure. And also, I just want to say that if we don't talk about it, it's because it is so difficult to parse as someone who's not familiar with the legal system.
I think sometimes you have to wait a little bit because I think social media is a dangerous place to get your information.
Yes.
And you can read a thread and go, wow, this person sounds like they know what they're talking about. And like I said, someone I've had it a number of times. People will contact me and say that thread is wrong, and what they're talking about in regards to how, for instance, victims are treated in Korea is wrong. And so I'm left with, I don't have enough time on my hands, right, to go travel to Korea and figure it all out, right? So there are people doing that, and there are investigative journalists, and I'm, by the way, definitely not a journalist, even though people sometimes think I'm definitely not a journalist. I'm just a dude.
I've seen you hold a microphone, and journalists hold microphones. Right, exactly, so right. Exhibit A,
exactly,
you're a journalist.
So you know,
open and shut, sir.
I mean, here's the problem with social media. People love virtue signaling, right? So
I fucking love it. I'm getting so hard off that virtue signal. My virtue is so signaled right now.
We all know that domestic abuse is fucking. You know, we won't tolerate that, right? I get that. That's fine. But when it comes to...
We have shooed other people out of the community because of that.
Right. But...
Multiple instances of that happening.
But my point is that I think sometimes you know, it's like, all right, let's just slow down a minute because these are real people.
First bit of smoke.
These are real people, and the information that we're getting, I'm not really sure about 100% because I'm seeing people question the information, not necessarily like, you know, just various things like, oh, this is how the Korean court system works, and then somebody else will be like, no, it's not. This is how it works. And so I'm just, to be honest, for me, I'm gonna wait and see. You know, I know in my head, you know, obviously, clearly, I know, you know, whatever. If you want a virtue signal, you know, domestic abuse, yes, that's terrible. And if infiltration did it, yes, that's terrible. But right now, I'm not feeling so confident about all the various bits of information and sources and this and that and the other that I'm hearing, because it's all fucking secondhand, and it comes from people who sound confident, but I've not yet seen somebody that I know as an investigative journalist like thoroughly go through it all and come back with like some information that I can feel confident in believing, you know. So right now I'm still in the wait and see place, and I would hope that if I was ever found in a similar situation, that other people would give me a little bit of benefit of the doubt until things were clearer.
Because here's the actual, like, here's the rub of it. It's just people yelling into a void actually doesn't solve much of anything. Even me saying, it feels good to say into this microphone, "Hey, fuck that guy," and I can say that with, I can just have that opinion, right?
Yeah,
even all this aside, I can just say, "Hey, fuck him." Yeah. But it also doesn't solve anything. So, like, if you hear me say this, and then you're like, you know what, I'm gonna take this. I heard Joe Munday say "fuck infiltration." You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna say "fuck infiltration" on Twitter. Like that literally doesn't solve anything. I mean, maybe I don't know. Like, having actual, like, conversations with people, that does matter.
It's like, difficult though, man. Like, having conversations with people. You mean actual one-to-ones or actually over social media? Because conversations over
one-to-one.
Yeah, one-to-one's great, right? But having conversations over social media, and even what we're doing now, is difficult because people run with it. They run with a quote, whatever, and that's it. And then you're against the mob. You know, and
and that's the start and end of it. There's no.
Oh, you can't beat the mob. You can't beat the mob.
There's no movement there.
You're done.
Right.
You're done.
Like, I'm gonna bring this into real world situation, or should I do this? I don't want to edit this podcast. So should I talk about this openly? I had, in my real life, I had a situation where a friend had done something like this, of whom I still talk to, but I had a very strong conversation with that friend about, "Hey man, what you've done here is the worst fucking thing, and I don't want to talk to you because of this unless you change who you are as a person and what you have going on, and I don't think anyone else in our friend group wants to talk to you because of that as well." And it's not. And that conversation was super fucking hard.
I bet.
It was really hard. But that dude has changed and made steps in a direction. I don't know if he's quite there yet personally, but that's just where things are with his life. I don't want to get into it, but like, that's actual change. I didn't yell at him on Twitter and send a lot of people his way to go bully because that didn't solve anything, or wouldn't have solved anything. If anything, that would just make him mad and callous towards the world and like prevent him from changing. So like, the world's hard and conversations are hard.
Social media is hard, dude. The world is hard. Social media is hard right now. Social media is very, very hard.
It is the worst. Turn it off.
It rules everything, so kind of sucks. Yeah. But we should lighten the mood.
We should.
Why don't you want to talk about dojos?
Hell yeah! I was just gonna ask that question. We should. Are dojos good?
I don't know. That's the thing, right?
Are dojos good?
I know less. That's the other thing. Like, that's the other thing. I'm like so confused. So I got on the stream. I think, was it yesterday they came out? I think I got on the stream, had like a low level stream with some of the guys, and it was either yesterday or the day before, and I was like, all right, okay, let's figure this shit out. So it was like, all right, we're gonna make a dojo, and what should we call it? Let's call it Shenlong, and how do you join the dojo, and what are the settings, and all this crap, right? So at the moment, it seems. So I was trying to figure out, like, well, what are Capcom's goals here, right? What are they doing, right? So I think clearly it's a move to foster. Well, it's two things are happening, right?
Which is a long play, definitely.
Well, there's two things that are happening that are very clever. Okay. First one is really simple. The more DLC type customization you can introduce into a game that allows you to express yourself is brilliant, because people
that is a financially smart decision.
People lap that stuff up. If you're playing Fortnite, buy a dance or whatever the fuck it is you buy in Fortnite, right? You buy various clothing, you buy this, that, and the other. And then who would have thought fighting games uniquely, you can have your own stage. That's a brilliant idea. It's actually a really good idea, right? So you got your dojo, you got your stage. I'm a little unclear about what's rare and what's not, because that would be really good. I would love to know what's rare, right? Because then I could, as a content creator, I can make a video just like the CS:GO guys of me hitting up Manat. Hitting up Manat.
It dropped. I can't believe my Trojan horse dropped. Can't you believe it?
Yeah, right?
No,
that's exactly it.
If air horn rips, and then it's discovered that you were on the inside the whole time. Capcom is just giving you those to get people hype about the Trojan horse, and now they want the Trojan horse, so they're going to put all the money, fight money, back into the dojo.
Right?
It's all a scheme, man.
Maybe it's like a red Trojan horse or something, right? Maybe that's the rarest thing you can get. Only one in every 1,000 people gets it, and that would be like cool for content creators, because when they get rest, they can do these videos or do
my
streams
Tanuki
or
has
whatever.
Big ball sack. Your Tanuki's ball sack is small.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Clearly I have the rare Tanuki.
So two things are happening, right? So one thing is that I think they're testing a lot of this stuff, to be honest, because right now it's super cheap and it's fight money and all that stuff, right? But I think they've been testing us more and more and more, and whether they'll turn it into something on Street Fighter 5 which becomes more of a moneymaker for them, or if they'll introduce it in the next fighting game. But they've been slowly, they've got Manat, they've got the dojo, they've got they've got million costumes. I'm sure the next move on costumes will be a lot more customization. There'll be more customization, like Tekken. Like it'll be like, oh, I can change your hat and I can change your gloves and I can this and that and the other, right? And all of it is about self-expression, and fighting games are about self-expression, games are about self-expression. So it all makes sense, and they are definitely on that train, which will eventually end up. It will eventually, I would think, end up in a place similar to CS:GO or Call of Duty or whatever, where the loot boxes are exciting, incredibly exciting or whatever. And then the second thing that's going on with dojos, as far as I can tell, is they're trying to create this idea of community. Maybe rivalry, but I think it's community. But at that point, I'm a little bit lost, because I guess maybe it's me. I'm a little bit lost about how we are connecting. Because if we had a literal dojo where it was like a lot, well, I guess you could have your dojo guys come into a lobby. Maybe there's maybe when you set up a lobby, only people from your dojo could come in. I don't know if that's even set up yet. But I imagine that would be a lobby setting, right? Like only dojo members can come into the lobby, right? That would be good training, online training for the dojo. It feels like that's gotta happen,
right?
Doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like online training has got to happen for the dojo?
It has to happen. And my dream scenario is one, and I think that this might be because they've tied it to a separate website and it's not in game. I think there might be reason for that, for them to say, okay, we can't have, maybe we can't do voice chat in this game because PC over PS4 is too complicated, and to recode the game to make that work, to make voice chat work, is impossible. So what if they include they have to do two things: include voice chat in the CFN website, which the dojo is in, and then in addition to that, allow matchmaking from that website. Right?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty tough,
because it's two different.
But not everybody has
services.
Not everybody has. So the setup that I'm sitting in front of right now, right, is perfect, because it's a streaming setup. So I have my PC running and I have my PlayStation 4 running, right, and so I can make that work. But the majority of people who aren't streamers or whatever, are they sitting there with access to the CFN website and access to the PS4? Now, I don't want to listen. don't want to shit on it because I actually think it's a very positive move from Capcom. I do think that it's become complicated because it probably should have been in the game from the start, and now
don't get me started on that.
Now it's sort of like it's workarounds, right?
Right.
It's workarounds. That's what it feels like at the moment.
They've built a boat out of patches to fill all the leaky holes. We're no longer in the same boat anymore. It's the what's the name of that boat? What do people call it where you start a journey as the one boat, but by the end of it you've repaired it so many times it's not made out of the same materials? What's the name of that adage?
I have no idea. Somebody in the chat can probably say, but Automatok said that a mobile app would be useful, and he's right.
So someone else brought up, Lamar in the chat, that you might be able to also link Discord servers, which is like it's already its own thing. So that actually makes way more sense to me. Just specifically the idea that you can get in touch with these people vocally and also like get in touch with them in a way that you can ping them and say, hey, you, this person, you, Born Free, I am talking to you. Specifically to bring up something like I want.
You mean through the game?
Maybe not through the game, but just like a service that is related to the game in some way.
Because right now,
maybe it's through the website.
You can do that anyway, right?
Like kind of, but nah.
I mean, we can.
I can't send you a message, right? I can't in this game send you a message that says, "Hey, like, you can be free in an hour."
Well, that's what I'm saying in the game.
Yeah,
that's why
that's
why no, but that's what you're proposing. Are you proposing that you can do it from in the game?
It's something either
or just on the CFN website.
Because it seems like they're setting it up. They're setting up tangentially to the game.
Right. So if it's on the CFN website, it's still not quite in the game. Do you know what I mean?
To me, sounds. Regardless, what I'm getting to is what I want to see, and I brought this up earlier, a Sherpa situation where someone can say, I am your fighting game Sherpa. I will take any new players and we will do training for X amount of time and we will talk about what we've learned and we do this whole thing. And maybe there's like something more set up with like online training and versus like how long you do, and maybe the longer you do it, you get either like fight money or dojo points or whatever the fuck that means. Just something that forces players to learn and talk together and gives them an incentive to do so and a way to do so. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I think that might be possible with some stuff that they might set up. But again, stuff that they might set up, not stuff that's set up right now. But
yeah, I mean,
because I don't know if dojos are good.
I'll be honest with you. There's been a lot of really good. I'm going to be positive about all of this because I think there's been a lot of good things happening recently with Capcom. A lot of interesting announcements. Some of them I don't totally understand, but maybe I will in time. But it feels like there's some positivity. The last update to me was I made a video about it. I thought it was a really good update, and we even talked about it. That there was a quality of life update in the game, which I thought was really good. Dojos seem like they are going towards potentially, more customization, which is always fun, and potentially it's a moneymaker for Capcom.
Right.
And then also the idea of it does feel like they're heading towards the idea of community and potentially rivalry in groups, because there's this other barrier that people talk about with fighting games, which is it's just you're on your own all the time. And
yes,
the more you can create teams, and maybe the dojos can have teams and all that sort of stuff, and they have points and blah 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 blah. I'm not sure how seriously people are going to take those dojo points versus their individuals, but I think it depends how much Capcom promotes it and how much they make it a big thing and how much they incorporate it potentially in tournaments. Like
how much they show that it matters.
Maybe in a year, yeah, exactly. Maybe in a year they'll be like the top 10 dojos are going to come out and we're going to have this big tournament, right? Which could be interesting.
But then you look at like 100 versus 100. Does that make sense?
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, is it 100? Is it 10?
Given caps.
Also,
there's a 100-player cap.
Well, that's why that's why I'm not 100% sure about the points either, because it's like if you have 10 people in your dojo and somebody else has 100 people in their dojo. Well, I guess we'll find out about points next week. But the thing that I was kind of
So why would there be a leaderboard if like you're only if it allows you to set your dojo limit to anything below 100.
I don't know.
Is there going to be leagues, dojo leagues of here's your 100 class league, here's your 10 class league?
I don't know. I don't know the answer, but you're asking good questions. But I will say this. I just wanted to really quickly say this. The implementation was pretty successful. Like, it was pretty seamless, and we usually don't see that. You know?
Yeah, that's true. There was like an hour there around 8 p.m. Eastern where it was like, whoa, we're kind of broken for a second. But it cleared up within like an hour.
I genuinely was expecting, based on previous experiences, I was genuinely expecting it to be a clusterfuck. Like, it was like because it involves the website and it involves the game and it involves them to be being connected, right? So I was like, Jesus Christ, this is gonna be a night. This isn't gonna work. But it did.
You can very clearly look at that and be like, I don't know, your track record is not so great on this stuff.
But it worked, you know. So I was pretty impressed by that. And
Capcom, some of the frame data you list on your own website is wrong. So how's this gonna work out? The website's gonna talk to the thing. It's gonna show up in my game.
It definitely
I'm gonna
feels
put the
like
Tanuki there, and I'm gonna
like,
see it in my game.
I mean, I know there was, you know, obviously there was this move, this guy Ryozo, who got taken, you know, who was head of, might still be head of Monster Hunter. I'm not sure, but you know.
Have we talked about this at all? I think I briefly mentioned this last week, which was like a very brief show anyway, which I guess we can kind of talk about. But this change happened like months ago, right? This was like 7 months ago.
Yeah, which is about the time frame where changes would start happening now. Like, specifically,
we're talking about Ono moving position, not stepping down. I don't think. I think
they threw this
lateral move.
So I think the more important thing is they threw. I mean, I don't know what Ono's official title is, to be honest. I think Ono, for a long time, this is hard for me because it's hard looking from the outside in. But I remember
it's hard to parse those titles. Those titles are
I remember around about 2000.
Jibberjaw.
I think it was around about 2013 or something like that when Ono stated in a tweet or something, "I'm overworked," and I can't remember what he said exactly, but it was like he suddenly went wildly overboard with his connection to the community, right? So he suddenly opened a Facebook account and he friended everybody and responded to everybody, and he responded to everybody on Twitter. And he just made himself very visible to the community. And he was like, it was almost like, I just don't remember it that well, but it felt a lot like they're about to fire me, so I'm going to make myself as visible as possible. So I don't know. But I've always wondered about his place these days within Capcom, you know?
How does that wear on a person, and how long can you keep that treadmill going without taking less responsibilities, because you've added more responsibilities to your plate by doing that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because with 5, I've always felt like, and again, this is the outside looking in, so none of this is like, you know, knowledge or anything like that. It's just it's conjecture here, but you know, Ono I've never really felt like Ono has taken ownership of 5. You know, like in the way that he took ownership of 4. Like, he doesn't really talk that much about the game in the same way.
Maybe.
You know, like it's his game. So, regardless, anyway, this guy Ryozo got moved over to whatever to be in charge, I guess, of the fighting game. Segment of Capcom, right? And I believe this guy is also there's a family connection which I didn't know about, but
yeah, that's the part where I'm like, all right.
Well, it's interesting. Okay. The Event Hub's article dug that up, and he's basically like the son of the CEO of Capcom or something like that.
Right. Nepotism.
But it makes you wonder.
Good thing.
It makes you wonder how much more power and budget and how quickly he can get decisions made at the top level. Right. I mean, like if your dad is the CEO, you just go, "Can I get this approved?" Brilliant, done. So you know, a 4-month process takes like 1 day. You know.
Right, and we will also never know these details.
We'll never know these details
as the public.
But I guess what we've seen happen recently, it feels like you can go, well, this thing happened 7 months ago, which seemed to be quite important in regards to how they're structured. And now, 7 months later, these things are happening, which seem quite positive and pretty well done. And
perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, everyone's got their own point of view on this stuff, right? But I like to try to...
You like to think that we're living in the best timeline?
I like to think I want to always look at something and go with fresh eyes, you know, and go, okay, right. What's happening now? As opposed to where we were 2 years ago, or maybe a year ago, or whatever, right? Or, you know, like, I felt like the release of G and Sagat was one of the strongest releases they've ever had in regards to characters. I thought G was very well thought out. I honestly, when I first saw G, he was the least interesting character to me. I just thought, this guy, I'm so not interested. But then, like, when they brought in him and, you know, his crazy quotes and his mannerisms and his light it up and, like, his, you know, his connection to Q potentially, and all that stuff, I was like, whoa, this is an interesting character, right?
The whole package together was...
With Sagat as
well. Executed very well. Oh, Sagat is so good.
Sagat's so dope.
Sagat is so
I think Sagat looks great. I think his graphics are great.
He's so good.
There's some animations...
I love the part in his story where the mescaline kicks in. It's so good. Man, Sagat is so good in this game.
Yeah, it's dope. And then of course there was a quality of life update, right? So I have already made a video on that saying this seems really positive. Right?
And remind the people what quality of life change was made.
Oh, so, I mean, essentially at the end of a ranked match, there is an option to go straight into the training room with the two characters you just had in the match, which is really fast way for somebody who wants to level up to take a situation that was bugging them in the match, they didn't understand perhaps, or they were being spammed against, or that's just the basic level, right? So if I'm playing Geef and Geef is spamming me with something and I just don't understand how to deal with it, I can go straight into the training room, which saves me a lot of time going back in and out of menus, and I can just set Geef up to do whatever that move is, and I can find out how to counter it, right?
Right.
So the point is, whenever you're helping the player improve by giving him the tools to improve, I think that's really awesome and important. And nobody had asked, we've asked for a lot of things, right? But nobody had asked for that one specific update, like that way of doing things. And so somebody somewhere had gone, I think this would be an awesome thing, because they didn't have to add it, right? Somebody somewhere said, I think, and it didn't make big news for them either. It wasn't like a big PR move or anything like that. They just threw it in.
They didn't list it in the changes.
Right.
Which and they hadn't started listing quality of life changes until this last patch, I believe.
I mean, I think it's one of the best quality of life changes I've seen, just because I've been wanting two things. One is for things that help players get better. I would also like to be able to go straight into a replay, by the way. Because that's really a difficult process. Not difficult.
Or take this another level. Let's go Galaxy Brain on this. Add the replay to the training mode. Add a replay feature. It has all the inputs.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Galaxy Brain stuff about replay modes and actually playing them back and stuff. But
I do also want to sidestep a little bit here, because Jibbo brings up a good point in the chat. That if you don't have the character, it advertises, hey, you don't have this character, buy this character, to go back into training mode.
Wait, actually,
if you're in a set against a G and you lose against the G, and you want to go into training mode against G, but you haven't bought G, the game will advertise to you, like, buy this character.
See, that's the side of it. Is that what
business decision? That's very smart.
But is that what happened? So
it's apparently what happens.
Interesting. That's an interesting one. we're in such a strange place with fighting games now, where unless you are in 100%, you're kind of not in. You know, like in regards to the game.
Yeah.
So it's like you do have to buy all the characters, otherwise, you got a problem.
You can't lab a character if you don't own the character, which is kind of fucked up.
I didn't realize. I actually didn't initially realize that was because I've got all the characters, right? Because
right.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm interested and I buy the characters, so I haven't come across that scenario, but I could see people being a bit salty about that scenario, given that the character is. It's not like you're it's not like it's not like you're given permission to. You're still not given permission to play the character. You would.
And it's true that you can do this in no other fighting game. Also, like this is not new to Street Fighter that you can't train against characters that you don't own. However, Street Fighter is the only game that is really pitched as a service and not just a fighting game. Right? I mean, there are seasons to this, and they're continually adding to this. You never have to buy another Street Fighter 5, which is true. You don't have to do that.
Yes.
Other games, there's like, you get the Rev 2, you know, you get the DLC added to that. That's a game that you buy with a package that comes with it.
Yeah.
It's not, well, you can earn this character. You can't earn those characters in those other games. Mostly. There are ways to earn some characters in other games, but there aren't ways to earn every character in that game. You can earn all the characters here. So it's not entirely nefarious, but they're business and they're trying to make money. They're going to give a lot of it away here in like 2 months or so.
Yeah, I mean, it does suck that you can't train against characters that you haven't bought.
It does suck.
Because when you train against those characters, you have a limited amount of things you can do. Like in training, like you can all right, let me try this, but it's not the same as owning them and being able to play as them in matches and stuff like that. So
right.
I don't know. I kind of would have expected a little bit of leniency on that. I don't know if it's the way the system works. You know, that they literally can't do it. Or whether they could do it. It would be. I think it would be nice if you could lab against potentially a character that you don't own.
Right. Or at the very, very least, let you.
Because I think that leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth. To be honest, yeah. I think it's like, hey, train. You can totally go and train with this character. You're like, brilliant. And then it's press the button and it's like, no, you don't own that character. And
at the very least, it should let you watch those tutorial videos.
But I can fight you, right? So this is why it doesn't make sense to me. I can fight you if you've got a character that I don't own.
I've got G, you don't have G, you can fight me.
So I can fight you.
Totally
cool.
So
that's cool. You're on screen. I can fight against you, and potentially, if you and I get together in a lobby, we could practice together, right? So I can do some labbing with you, right?
Correct.
But for some reason
earlier today.
But for some reason, I can't do that in the. That sucks. That kind of sucks, to be honest. Yep. So I could see people getting a bit salty about that. I mean, it's kind of funny because, well, it's not funny. It's just like one step forward. Sometimes it's like one step forward, 2 steps back, or something like that.
They've created another problem that they didn't know that they were going to have.
Probably. I mean, I don't know.
Because if you historically look at it, it's like, yeah, fucking obviously. You don't buy the character, you don't get to play the character. Like, historically, that makes sense.
But you get to play against anybody else who's bought the character, so why can't you play against a dummy?
I mean, why can't you even watch the dumb tutorial videos? You know those tutorial videos that are in this video game that nobody has watched?
I've not. I think you can watch them. You can watch them for fight money, right?
Well, you used to be able to watch them for fight money, but you just get experience now.
Oh, okay.
Can be fight money.
Okay.
And they're for the most part trash, but at least let us watch that trash. Let me see that trash.
Wait, you can't watch characters you haven't bought?
Nope. I mean, I know, like, they're bad. Zangief's for season 3 is just, he has a running bear grab. That's all.
Yeah, I wish they would.
They added a goddamn new move.
It'd be great
if new normal move and a new special move. None of that. They don't talk about any of that shit. They just say he has a Siberian Express.
It would be great if in the future they.
It's great.
It would be great if they teamed up with some, good content creators who could help them with tutorials.
If only we knew someone who like could write a good tutorial or like figure out a good tutorials, like it's a good way to train. Like if only there was good examples of that out there. Yeah. It's just frustrating that we don't have any of that anywhere. I haven't seen any good ways to learn fighting games.
Like a Geef player or something.
A Geef main would be, I mean, obviously ideal to be top by Geef main. They're the smartest players out there.
They are. Opinion. They are definitely the smartest players out there.
They're investing for the long haul right now because Geef futures are on the rise. Trust me, folks. They're invest in Geef futures because it's gonna be. You'll thank me later, but if only. But anyway, that's dojos. We don't know if they're good yet or not. It's a good sign.
I think if they implement online training into dojos,
that'd be great.
That'd be great. I mean, online training just anyway would be great. But dojos it seems like it's trying to tackle a couple things. Like I said, customization, which is potentially a moneymaker. But also people like customization. It's like I said, it's your way of expressing yourself, which I think is great. And then of course it seems like it's trying to bring a community together online. I just it's one of those things where you're just like, damn, I wish 2 years ago they had allowed us to just talk to each other online or message each other online or have an online
any kind of human to human interaction, which is something that is so unique and so necessary for fighting games. Human to human interaction is the core of what makes fighting games good.
Well, I mean, I've said it before. When I interviewed Kami, he brought it to life for me as a real life story. He was like, I was like, how'd you get in fighting games? And part of his story was, I played Smug online before he was Smug. He was called something else, and he was pretty good. I think they were B players or something. And he was like, I messaged him after the match and said, listen, could you teach me X, Y, and Z? I can't remember exactly the specifics, but then they started talking. Then they would start hanging out in online lobbies, right? So they became friends, online friends. Then Punk came into the mix, by the way. These 3 guys have known each other forever online. In fact, he'd been talking to Punk for like 7 years or something. 7 years? Maybe 7 years. And last year, believe it or not, is the first time Kami ever met Punk in person. But these guys used to hang out in their lobbies, get stronger and stronger together as their own little online community. And now they're all pro players.
Right.
So, like, if that's not like a strong ass story about how amazing it is to be able to freely communicate with each other online, I don't know what is. So, yeah, I mean, I think that Capcom is recognizing that now and trying to make something happen, and maybe it's via dojos. But I do wonder if the system is too far gone with the crossplay to introduce communication. It would be wonderful if they could, but I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, they're definitely going in the correct direction. I mean, if you watch the Capcom Connect, which was, was that just the other day? Was that just yesterday? My sense of time is all buck wild. But the Capcom Connect was earlier this week, and it was just people hanging out, having a good time, talking about Street Fighter stuff. It was a very encouraging stream, I think, and definitely worth the watch on the replays.
Oh, okay. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to tune in, but I thought what was good was I got a lot of people sending me messages, creators actually, who got highlighted. And I thought that was really great because
it's a good thing that they're saying, hey, the community's doing cool stuff. Like, let's give.
But also, you are part of the community.
Yeah.
Which they had done at the beginning of Street Fighter 5. I go on and on and on about it because it's one of my favorite actual pieces of advertising for Street Fighter 5. But there's an ad, a video that they did, which had two things in it. One was that everybody's accepted into the FGC, who, artists like freaking the people who make music, like all these creative people, right? Not just that, that you can be part of this group. You don't necessarily have to be a top competitor. You can find ways to contribute and be part of it and all that sort of stuff. And also part of that commercial was also about how hard it is to actually be the best, which was like someone telling the truth. Someone actually saying, instead of saying anyone can win, it was actually like this advert was actually this guy going through a journey of training, and it had this voiceover in it, and it didn't even say Street Fighter 5, it just had the logo at the end, but it was this idea of training and failing and training and failing, and it being a journey, which I thought was really interesting. But I do like that idea because the community is made up of a lot of different people. I'm one of them. Like I'm not I'm not out there winning tournaments, but I really like tournaments, and I really like the players, and I'm really interested in the players, and that's why I do interviews, and then I'll sometimes do skits and stuff like that. And there's people online who are making art.
There's so much to the community beyond just that top level.
Yeah, right? And I think that to me was the main thing. I didn't get to see the actual show, but that's what I got sent. A lot of people sent me like, "Hey, I was featured on Capcom Connect." And
it's like, hey, that's fucking rad.
Yeah, I thought that was really,
that they're even like acknowledging that there's all of this roots that are here. They're building up. Here's the thing. So I'm going to tie these two things together because I see people talking about this in the chat. We can't ignore it. And you should watch both of these things, or listen to, because it was a podcast. Event Hubs had Mike Ross on their podcast. Some of the things that he said, I mean, he still has so much influence over the community. It's fucking ridiculous.
He does. It's true.
It fucking blows my mind for someone who was at the top level and had a lot of access to ways to build up people from beneath, instead just like fucking pieced out, and then comes in every once in a while, just like say some shit and talk about Guilty Gear, and that's fine and that's good. Like a lot of things he says are like some good shit, but what his whole philosophy misses out on is that he has this extremely narrow vision of here's what this was in esports, and this was what this was, and so I don't want to be a part of that, which like fully disregards all of like the people who are meeting up for locals, like the people who are like making art for Street Fighter, like for the FGC, like the people who are just putting in work without expecting anything else in return. And like there's a fuck ton of those people, as it turns out. There's so many of them that like those people truly make up at least what I give a fuck about of the FGC. And like so that's what it felt like this show was trying to support, is like here's the people and like the things that are making moves within the community that are really not connected to that top down level of esports that we're used to watching, or like used to watching streams and then them pitching, well, check out this stick that we have, or check out this merch that we have, look at this sick chair that I'm sitting in. You might have that, but also like they're talking about like things at a local level, and that excites me. I like that we miss out on so much of that when we just look at it from those mainline storylines of we're up here going week to week we're the best of the best tournaments, which everyone is fucking burnt out on. No one, it's hard to give a fuck about. But like, show me that Capcom proper is showing off people's artwork, or showing like a tweet that Automatic made about some Sagat tech.
Oh, they showed it. Did they do that?
Yeah, they showed specifically the one where it is like extremely, maybe not extremely, but like you have to be a certain distance from the corner for this particular setup to work and
Oh,
spend,
cool.
yeah, like without
So
even
they
needing
definitely
to spend bar, you do a
it sounds
fuck
like
ton of damage. It's very fucking rad.
it
It
sounds
is
like
a very cool
yeah,
combo.
it just sounds like they definitely thought about all the different creators and wanted to give them, I mean, props, right?
Right. But the thing is, that same week, you have Mike Ross go on a podcast and just say, man, I'm just out of it. Wait, no, hold on. Here's more accurate. Man, I'm just like out of it. Like I'm at the pod. It's just like I saw things from the esports level from top down, and I can't. I still want to be a part of that. So I'm playing Guilty Gear.
I mean, look, with Mike, he always supported me a lot.
Like again, I'm not trying to like throw shade on the guy at all and say he was like this. He was bad. Like incredibly influential for the community. Got so many people involved within the FGC. It is bananas. People still want to go and thank that man for being like there in on the community, and I get it. Like, mad props to the thing that he built.
I understand what you're saying, right? So you've basically got two things going on, and they're kind of contrasting each other. And
like and like Capcom like fucked him pretty hard.
Yeah, and I think that he was Twitch, I think he was pretty clear about it being these are my decisions. And you do you, I'll do me. And if you want to know about me, here is my thing. Right? What you have, which, has very little to do with him, is other people who are like, okay,
who take that and turn it like alchemy like into like sage advice, where his like he literally says in that podcast like, no, I am just gonna do me, and like if that's what you like, that's cool. And like that part of it, that when he says that is what people should be listening to, go, oh yeah, no, like I do what I like what I like. But instead, people like kind of turn those words and use them to be, I don't know, outraged.
Well, they do. I mean, this is not. I mean, none of this is new, right? I mean, basically, I guess there are people who, there are people who are still very upset about the game, right? It's a divisive game. There are a number of people like that within the community, and even when the game launched, Reddit StreetFighter stood up and said, "Okay, well, the game is launched, but we need these 10 things kind of dealt with.
It is bad for this, and this region.
Right. These things need to be sort of fixed, right? So,
reposted that today. It's going on strong. It? Yeah. Nearly fucking. I keep saying two, but it's like nearly 3 years.
I remember Haunts responding once and saying, "All right." It was the first time I think they'd ever responded, and Haunts responded and said what he could say, which was, "This has not gone unnoticed, and we sent it to Japan," or something like that. That's how it kind of.
Yeah, that was the public messaging behind that.
It was pretty.
I have a little bit more. I'm talking to, but that was the message, and that's enough.
So, I think it's just the natural way of things that that when you have iconic people drop out and occasionally just speak up and try to be as responsible as they can in regards to, like, this is just me. You do what you want to do, but if you really want to hear from me, here we go. And if you really want to hear what I think, here we go. But this is me, and you do you. And that's the bit that often doesn't get heard, I guess.
Or at least get reflected in the community. I feel like there's just so many people out there who are like not. I just feel like there's a lot of people who are not intent with doing themselves. Themselves is a nightmare person. I don't want to fucking talk to them.
I mean, I think everybody just has. This is what everyone has to learn. They have to do themselves. I get really irritated by mobs. I understand I've done this so many times in so many videos. I don't really want to go over it again, but I actually understand the backlash. I understand why it happened. I understand why it had to happen. I understand why it happened so viciously.
Yeah.
I get it, because when you're shouting into a void, then the next place you go is like, we got to hit them in their pockets, which just creates all sorts of shit, right? You've gone through it on our StreetFighter, because you get blamed for putting money into the pockets of people who are considered to be delivering mediocrity, and they're going to keep doing it if you keep putting the money in their pockets, right? That whole story, I get it. Like, I totally get it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I wish more people would, and this is just the world we live in with social media, I just wish more people would think for themselves and go, all right, well, here's the things I like and here's the things I don't like. That's why I always ask people in interviews when I'm talking about Street Fighter 5, what do you like and what do you want to see improved? Like, that's
like
the option.
Outside of games, what do you like?
Those, but just like in terms of the game itself, let's talk about the game. These are two things, right? You don't necessarily, you're playing it, so like, you know, maybe you're playing it just for the money, I don't know, but or maybe there are some things that you like, and maybe there are some things you'd like to see improved, and I think it's important to take a step back and sort of go, do I want to jump on this train with all these other people? This fucking, you know, with the, what do you call it when they walk, the fucking torches, right? Like when everyone's got the torches and they're all, that's what the social media mobs are like, right? So it's like,
the
fuck
pitchforks,
me, let me get,
torches,
pitchforks, that's it. Let me get in on this. But I don't know. I think me personally, I try push out content where I go, all right, I like this and this, but, you know, from my perspective, I would love to see X, Y, Z.
Right.
You know? And maybe that's not as exciting for people. Maybe it's not as dramatic for people or whatever. But I definitely condone the message, I'll do me, you do you. You know?
Hell yeah.
And I think, you know,
I think that's a good part to end on. I think that wraps things up pretty well. We've run on for about 2 hours now, which is 1 hour over where I typically like to be.
Yeah, that's about 1 hour. That's what, no one's going to listen to. Only the people in the chat have been who've been in and out have listened to this. I don't know who's going to.
Yeah,
you've
you've grown in viewers this entire time.
Yeah, I know.
It's only going. This train's only going up the longer we talk. If we talk for another hour, you're gonna get at least 24 more viewers.
I've actually been trying to figure out whether it's the West Coast are more into streaming, because I actually think they are. I think the West Coast is more into streaming. So I think when you hit the time where the West Coast drops in, so it's 7 p.m. now in the West Coast, right? People getting home from work. So I've wanted to like catch the Europeans and the East Coasters and then the West Coasters, right? But it's always it always seems to be you know, you're better off living on West Coast time, and probably better off living on the West Coast, so you're on West Coast time for streaming. But I might be wrong, I don't know. But the West Coast is definitely fighting games. West Coast is Japanese stuff. West Coast is streaming. So that's why I think. But also, you know, I've got this wonderful collaboration going on with you, so that's probably like, I'll probably, when you leave, they'll be like, I'm sure everybody else will go running off.
All right, well, please run along, viewers, or stick around. I can't tell you, because you actually have gone up in viewers by the time we started. I'll probably just play a bit. The time that we started this anecdote to where we've ended, you actually have gone up.
No, I know, it's awesome. It's nice. It's so awesome to see people in the chat as well going having their going nuts and doing their thing.
Well, folks, that's a show. Again, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Mark, Born Free, thank you for being part of the show. Where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, I keep forgetting this is your podcast, even though we're on my stream. I'm
gonna hit stop record at some point. I'm gonna hit that stop point at some point
because I'm talking to the people in chat who are already here. So wild. People can find me. The easiest way is Born Free Tweets. Born Free Tweets on Twitter. That's the one that everyone remembers. People sometimes actually call me Born Free Tweets, which is really weird to me, at least.
That's not okay.
But then of course on Twitch it's Born Free Twitch, because I'm highly original, highly original with my systematic naming of things.
You just add the name of the service after the name, so it's.
There's actually a few
Twitch,
services.
Born Free Reddit.
There's
Born
actually
Free YouTube. Born Free Grinder. It's the whole thing.
Right. There's actually a few services that won't allow you to use their name in your username. I believe it's PlayStation won't. So
you can't make StreetFighter Dojo. By the way, you can't make you can't make StreetFighter.
Oh, you can't make StreetFighter Dojo?
Because I tried to do our Streetfighter. And then it was like, nah. Not even that it wasn't available, because it's not available. Because I searched for it.
You just can't make it.
You just can't make it. You can't be StreetFighter Dojo.
Yeah, you can't have.
One of those services.
I'm pretty sure you can't have PlayStation in your name, because I'm sure somebody would have.
Sense too.
But PlayStation sucks or whatever, you know.
Take control of that branding, dog.
Yeah, but generally speaking, I usually just shove the name of the service at the end of I just put Born Free something.
And you can find me at Super Joe Munday on Twitter, or at Reddit SF if you want to hit up the official Twitter account for Reddit, or if you just want to hop on Reddit and hit up user Joe_Munday. That's a wrap, folks. Again, it has been a pleasure, Born Free, talking to you. Thank you for this long episode after that little short hop I did in London. But hey, folks, until next time, we'll be back again next week. Don't forget about the Monday and Friday tournament, which are still rolling strong. We will see you again next Thursday on another edition of RSF Radio. But until then, take care, folks. Peace.
Hold up, I'm going to reset the stream. I'm just going to reset the stream, folks, so that I can turn this into a video that I can upload, even though it's 2 fucking hours long. I clearly speak for too long. The first hour is the first hour is a load of bollocks as well. So I was just talking about Europe.
We just.
It's the what? I feel like
that was the first 18 minutes. I clocked it at 18 minutes.
I think that's when you hit your peak with your whiskey, and we ended up talking about the fucking underground in London. Hold on, I'm gonna reset the stream, guys, so I can turn this into a VOD. I'll be back in 1 second.